TV show. I'm Dennett, the host and producer. I wanted to start off the first episode and kind of explain why a new show and who this show is for. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of do a show where people can watch and learn, and later on you can get me questions and I'll do my best to find people who can help answer those questions, and we can create a little community and just learn more, have a fun adventure along the way. I confess that I've been inspired by a number of people. The shout out to the folks that did the Bad Crypto podcast. Whoa. It's been a great learning experience and a fun journey, so that kind of inspired me to start a TV show. And I guess we kind of need to learn new vocabulary to understand how to utilize these new technologies. So on the conventional world, one of the things to help people get ahead financially is really just learning the vocabulary and increasing your understanding of it so that you can make better informed decisions and really learn to increase your understanding. So in the crypto world, it's all the same, except the words are all new. So blockchain, ledger, ICOs, and all these new terms are getting used a lot more. So it's a great time to familiarize ourselves with them and just what's wrong with the current system. So I actually went to the post office the other day and I bought myself some forever stamps. You'll see one of them is missing because I used it. These cost me 50 cents each for these stamps, but I heard our inflation rate's pretty low. However, I can easily remember when these stamps were 30 some cents. I remember when they were 25 cents, I think it was. And it doesn't seem that long ago. So you have to realize our current money system, our money, the value is decreasing. It's not holding up. A dollar bill today will get me 2 stamps, whereas a dollar bill in the past would have gotten me 3 stamps, and before that it would have gotten me 4 stamps. And as time goes on, the value of the purchasing power of our money is decreasing. Oh no! So we have some new technologies coming out, and maybe they can help solve some of these problems that money has. So one of those problems is the store of value, and that's one of the key functions of money, and something that the US dollar has depreciated through the years. And that's something I'm hopeful that cryptocurrencies can help solve, and that's just one of the issues. Whoa! Cryptocurrencies use a technology called, it's a decentralized. So I looked up the definition of decentralized, and it talked about taking the power away from one central government and putting it to the local states as an example. I think of decentralized as, how do you take technology, or how does this technology help to empower the people instead of just having the government or a central bank in control? You want to decentralize the power and spread it out to the individuals to let them have control of their own money and their own destiny. To me, that's kind of where I get passionate about this technology. It's like we're introducing this new technology, but it's really to empower people. How are people going to communicate? How are they going to exchange with each other? And as these technologies develop, you have to go back, and as you're learning these new terms, you got to start questioning yourself, well, what is money? What's important about money? What are the features that we need to keep? And then as it goes on, we get to build upon our understanding and also improve and fix the shortcomings of our current system and replace it with something better. For years, I was worried that we'd have a bad crash, but now we actually have a chance to have a new system being built up as the old system has issues. So that's some of the technology and some of the terms that I wanted to share with people and really just kind of get into as we go through future episodes. It's a journey about how we can learn together. What are the most important fundamental parts of this technology? What is it, and how can we not take advantage of it, but how can we learn so that we're really enjoying sending our funds electronically? So let me dive into that a minute. The difference between sending your funds electronically with a credit card versus using a cryptocurrency and really the blockchain. It's a decentralized ledger. So these are some terms that you probably want to take some time to familiarize yourself with. Decentralized, we covered. Ledger, I think of it as sort of a spreadsheet, kind of a really sophisticated Excel sheet that you can add different lines to, and it becomes a permanent record. So in the crypto world, this is considered a block of information. And again, go back, check out all these terms. I'm not a financial advisor. I have an interest in technology and just want to share it and learn more. So take the crypto technology, dive in, figure out what are the most important definitions, start to learn them. So blockchain, a block of information, a ledger, a recording ledger. And on this recording ledger, you're going to see different transactions in the history, so you'll know when a transaction occurred. And if I just step back, the real issue we're trying to solve here is trust. Trust is the issue that the ledger and the shared ledger of the blockchain solves. And that has it where you can have trust in the software as opposed to trust in a third party. The current system requires a central third party, such as a bank, to be trusted to make your transaction, whereas the new system relies on software to make that transition. So you're looking at how can we count on the software to have a layer of trust built in there, and that's really one of the fundamental shifts. So we're looking at what's called a two-party trust system, or a two-party trustless system, where two people can do an exchange when they don't necessarily know or trust each other, and they don't have to rely on a bank or a third party. So we're looking at two of the issues I just covered. One is the decentralized nature. Two is the trustless system. We covered the third. The third one was, how do we come up with a system that's a better store of value? Fourth, really exciting and interesting part too is access to the world's economy for people who are unbanked. So in much of the developing world and places where you don't have access to banks, well, now with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you'll be able to access a bank from your phone, and or have the power that where you won't even need a bank, where you'll be able to send money to anyone in the world and do all these features. So it's pretty exciting, cool technology. One thing I wanted to cover is I was on Facebook looking, and someone had a real world issue, which is kind of a pretty cool example of where blockchain can be used in the near future. So beyond the money and the decentralized part, another really cool thing is that you have what's called smart contracts, where you can write in additional layers. The Ethereum blockchain is one of the areas lots of people are working on. How do you add a layer of smart contracts on there? A smart contract is adding an if-then statement to your contract. Well, I can see the day in the near future where you'll do land transfers in real estate on these smart contracts. And I was reminded of why this is so important, because my friend from South Africa, he is just down there, and they're looking at going through a lot of turmoil. The country has had a lot of, it's had a rough history. So some of the landowners now might be kicked out of the country, and they're going to lose everything. But could we devise a system where people have more control, and where there's open ledgers of who owns land, and maybe the governments wouldn't be able to force people to sell it as easily, where at least the people could have an immutable record that couldn't be changed by governments. So at least there'd be a record in the history of who owned what. And throughout the world, there's lots of examples in history of governments coming in and changing who owns what. So this is really a technology that's super powerful, because it could, at its core, give power back to the people to have more control. and to have permanent records of who owns what. So it's a really fascinating, exciting time, and I'm looking at the blockchain as perhaps a bigger, more powerful technology than even the internet. It's something that's going to revolutionize and disrupt pretty much every industry out there. If you think at its core, all industry uses money. Money is a means of how we share transactions. So if you're changing money in something that fundamental, that's going to have an impact on pretty much every business out there. And it also opens up a lot of new doors on how people can rethink and improve the supply chain, but also real estate, the legal system, transactions. So that's another reason you really just want to take some time to learn to get to know these new technologies, what doors are going to be open for new entrepreneurs. And for the first time in a long time, the playing field right now is pretty level. There aren't a Bitcoin financial elite coming in from Wall Street that you can't touch. There's a time where if you have a good idea and you want to help solve the world, well, now we can go out there and we can try to really have these technologies in our hands where people can have a level playing field to go out there and just start solving problems, looking at it from a clean sheet and figuring out, okay, in the past, this is the technology and the tools we had. Well, now we have these new tools, and I see some solutions, or whoever's out there can see solutions and go out there and try to solve real-world problems and use improved efficiency. One of the questions I was asked before was, what about the power? Cryptocurrencies take, Bitcoin in particular has a lot of mining, which is simply people running full nodes. The currency, part of the structure of how it works requires mining. Well, the mining requires electricity, and there have been, I had a question about, well, where's the electricity going to come from and how much power does it take? And that is a very legitimate concern or a question. And it does take considerable amounts of electricity to power the mining systems for this new technology. But it also opens up lots of doors for improvements in distributions. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to save a lot of electricity along the way as the newer technologies allow for more efficient distribution systems. There's one company, not a plug, I'm not a financial advisor, but there is one company in Australia that started, they're called a Power Ledger, and they're looking at how can people have solar and how can they get credited for the exact amount of solar that they put back into the grid through using smart contracts and the blockchain, where that power would get used at someone else's place and be more tracked than it is in the current system. So it's just having more tools gives us better ways to solve issues. So I kind of want to summarize again. This is my first show here. We'll be having guests come on in the future. We'll be diving into different issues, explaining these topics, how you can get to really just learn more about these technologies as they evolve, improving your vocabulary. Blockchain is really a whole new base of technology. I heard some people were saying, well, is this a new industry? No, this is a new technology. Blockchain is not an industry, it's a technology. And cryptocurrencies, they are a market. So we've got a new market and new technologies which are going to revolutionize the way that business is done. We're putting the power back into the power of the people. And just from a personal note, I find it really exciting that these new technologies empower people. They let people become their own banks and in control of their own finances. It's a nice change from a lot of these other technologies and the way things are headed. You've got AI, self-driving cars, and all these technologies that in some ways are taking some of the power and freedom away from people. But now we have the blockchain and crypto is coming along, and they're really returning power to the people. I really want people not to be afraid of this technology. Just learn about it, have fun, get in there. If you want to go ahead, learn about how to open an account, what are the exchange options, how to store your Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, what are wallets, how do you hold them? It's kind of like, how do you send an email? How do you make an attachment? How do you open that attachment when you receive it? All this stuff are things you had to learn. Well, the same's true in the crypto world. You're going to have to learn a whole set of new skills as this technology gets more popular and evolves. We'll dive into some of these, and we'll also be looking in more details about what's going on in the local areas. If anyone out there is listening and doing an ICO, I'd love to chat with you. For those who aren't familiar with the term ICO, it's initial coin offering. It's sort of like an initial public offering, except someone could be offering a new coin or token to really kind of solve a new problem, or looking at coming out with a way to raise funds to solve a new problem. So if you're in the area and you're working on ICO, please contact me, let me know. I'd love to get you in on the show. If you'd like to just get out there and help explain cryptocurrencies and the terms, I'd like to give you an open invitation to come join me on this show. This show is non-profit. We're not looking to generate a profit. I'm not putting out official advertising or plugs for anyone. It's really just, how can we get out there, share the knowledge, help the community to learn about the new technology, and interface with more of the community. Honey badger. The term is pretty cool because a honey badger is a really cool animal. This is where the name came from. It came from a honey badger. Honey badgers sort of have their own agenda. If they're hungry and they want to eat, they're fearless creatures that go out and they'll get the meal. Well, Bitcoin doesn't bow down to anyone. It's its own technology. It's not following the existing rules, and Bitcoin has its own, it's evolving, and it's not following the, no one's in control of it, so it kind of reminds me of a honey badger that's hungry to get. The first question is, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a new technology. I think of it as digital money. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor, but I love technology and I like learning about it. Bitcoin, it's sort of like you can email it back and forth. It's not really email, but it's digital money. Think of it as a bank you can keep in your pocket, a way of taking money and having it where it's stored digitally and the banks are not involved. One of the questions is, what's the difference between Bitcoin and the banks? The bank is a third-party trusted system. So I have my money and it's stored in my bank account, and if I want to send it to someone, I don't directly send it to them. It goes through my bank and then they'll release it. At the end of the day, they have to tally up the accounts and they control the accounting. Bitcoin is a system where you don't have a third party. I can give money directly to you and I'll send it, you'll have an address. With Bitcoin, it's a lot more like you're emailing money around rather than going and counting on the bank. One thing I want to add there is, some people say, well, Bitcoin's kind of slow, or how long does it take? Well, Bitcoin can, in some cases, take up to a couple hours. I've heard some where it's a little bit slower. In other cases, sometimes it could be a few minutes, as quick as a few minutes. I've had it where I move money from an investment account I have to my bank account. It takes it at least a day, sometimes 2 or 3 days to clear. If I sell a stock and I wait for that stock that I've sold to have the money in my account, my brokerage account, it takes 3 days. So you have to realize the current system we have is quite slow on a lot of things. And if you can have Bitcoin taking a few hours to solve these problems, you're speeding it up and it's a lot quicker. Okay, next question. Why was it created? Very interesting question. Bitcoin was created after the financial crisis that we had. Remember, in 2008, the banks, they just about went under. The Federal Reserve had to step in and rescue all the banks. Well, there were some really smart people behind the scenes that they wanted a better solution. And out of that crisis with the banks in 2008, there's some really cool movies that were done. And if you go back and watch what happened, you can see where there were these last minute bailouts. And there was a lot of stress in the entire system, and it almost completely crashed. Well, at that time, people saw a need, or some people saw a need, to create a better system. Bitcoin was founded, and it was released from someone called Satoshi Nakamoto. And we don't really know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. It could have been a group of people, or it might have been one person. We're not sure. Personally, I think it's Max Kaiser, but more on him later. Another question. What is the future of Bitcoin? The future of Bitcoin is so exciting. The reason it's so exciting, I think it's going to just open the doors up, and it will eventually become the world's reserve currency. I'm pretty certain that we'll see a beautiful future for Bitcoin. Again, that's my own opinion. Do your own homework, do your own research, but you'll see it's just like in the early days of the internet. This technology has so far to go, and it's going to change the world in wonderful ways. Bitcoin, I believe, will become the world's reserve system and the way that wealth in the future is stored. It's got a great future going. Okay, where to start in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrencies? Okay, let me differentiate there. Cryptocurrencies are a new class of currency or money. They are not all cryptocurrencies are Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the oldest and the most popular. It's the largest and the most common cryptocurrency. The number 2 one right now is Ethereum, and there's actually well over 1,000 different cryptocurrencies out there. Each one's looking for its own need. You wonder, why would there be so many cryptocurrencies? Well, if you look at the system we use now, we have US dollars to spend in the US, but if I go to Canada, I need Canadian dollars. If I go to Australia, I need Australian dollars. And likewise, the Chinese are using the Chinese yuan. So each country has its own money because their money serves a purpose, and a slightly different purpose for each nation. Well, each cryptocurrency is looking at having a little bit different problem that it's out to solve. For example, Ethereum, the second most popular one, it has a really cool feature called smart contracts. Smart contracts allow you to put in terms if, then, which allow you to do legal statements or different statements which will become super cool in the future. But basically, they give people more control of how the money's moved, and it's software taking over and doing smart contracts, which is going to be awesome going forward. How do you get started? The way you get started is to educate yourself. Go out, read, and learn there's some really cool information systems out there. I personally kind of have fun with some of the podcasts. The Bad Crypto podcast was one I've learned a lot from. And there's a ton of different sets of information out there. But what you want to do is really educate yourself. And then you want to start with a little bit of money. Open an account at somewhere, maybe Coinbase or one of the exchanges, and get a little bit of Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, so don't be scared at what the price of Bitcoin is. Just go buy $10 or $20 or whatever you can afford to lose and play with. Buy a little tiny bit of a Bitcoin and figure out, how are you going to store it? What's a wallet? Where do you hold it? And then let yourself be educated and learn as you go through the process. Just like you'd set up an email account. I'm going to send my first email. Now you get to set up a new account. I'm going to get my first little bit of a Bitcoin, and I'll try to send it to a wallet where I'll store it. That's how you get started. Educate yourself. That would get some. This is public TV. A couple more questions that I want to address. The first question is, how do you make money with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? Well, I'm not a financial advisor, so these are just my opinions. They're for information and entertainment purposes only. The easiest way is to hodl it or hold. So get some regular money, which is what we call fiat currency, and then convert it through a local exchange such as Coinbase, or it doesn't have to be local, but an exchange, and then you would get Bitcoin. you would get that Bitcoin and you hold it in your wallet. A wallet's really just a private place where you want to keep your money, a better way to hold it, and we'll get into that in more details. But for now, you just want to get your Bitcoin, hold it, hodl it, and hold it, and then someday in the future, if you want, you could exchange it back for fiat or US dollars wherever you're living, what the local currency is. I'm of the opinion that eventually it will be the world's reserve currency and you won't need to switch it back to US dollars, but you'll be simply storing your wealth in Bitcoin. And the reason you want to do this is, again, remember a while back I talked about how stamps are now 50 cents and you can get 2 of them with $1. I remember when you could get 3 of them for $1, and even before that 4 stamps for $1. So as our current dollar, it's not really a great store of value because it's losing value as time goes on. And I think that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to solve that problem. Another question we had is, can you shine your shoes with Bitcoin? Well, if you hodl your Bitcoin, you'll be able to buy yourself some nice new shiny shoes and you won't have to worry about polishing and shining your old shoes. Now, the final question I had was, someone asked, why am I doing this show? What's in it for me? I'm doing this as a learning experience. I really want to learn more about cryptocurrencies and to share my experiences. I figure if I have a show going, well, I'll have a chance to talk to more people than I would otherwise. And it also gives me a little bit more reason to make sure I'm really on top of my learning and sharing what I learn with the community around me. I did a fitness show in the past, and on that show I used to have it gave me great access to the local fitness community and talent, and I was able to really learn a lot and improve my own knowledge. So I'm doing this to improve my knowledge, but also to share what I'm learning with the community so that people around me can also learn more as we go through this journey and the transformation from a fiat world based on the current financial systems into the digital cryptocurrency blockchain space, which will become the new normal in the future. I'm really confident that in the future it will be all blockchain and digital currencies. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Dennett, host and producer of The Money Badger. If you'd like to join me on this show, please reach out to me. We'll be getting our Twitter feeds going live. You'll also see our website and different social media accounts running in the near future. So feel free to reach out to me if you have more questions you'd like me to address on future shows, or if you'd like to bring a guest on and have suggestions of a guest that's in the local San Jose Bay Area. If they'd like to join me on this show and help explain or share their knowledge with the community, that's what this show's about. It's about an exchange of